knows. To be eternal allows them to know our past and our future. This does by no means say that they know what Allah knows. So we then want to say, well, what evidence might we have as to what Allah's plan is? Well, what have we seen so far? We have seen so far that Allah created light, and from this created light, where there was no time and no space and no matter, He went from that created light to a material existence. And that material existence starts in a very primitive form. But this very primitive form is actually made of light that is slowed down. And when that light slows down, it imbues or puts into these particles some potential from Allah. Then when we see what that matter is doing, what Allah does, how that Allah directs that matter for the next billions of years, what we see is, so from these subatomic particles that Allah imbued with some of His attributes through light in the beginning, He then went from the subatomic particles into the creation of atoms. Allah put through light, in its absolute sense, into subatomic particles, a potential to be expressed. But that potential cannot be expressed in a very simple form of matter. And so the grand cosmic plan is to go through a series of stages of increasing complexity of matter, each of these new levels being able to more and more fully express this potential that was put in. That the whole purpose of the physical creation, it isn't that Allah did all of this before Adam and then decides to create a Khalifa. I don't think this is the case at all. I think all of this, the whole creation of the material existence, is to create a Khalifa for Allah. We'll go later into what I think could be possibilities of the Khalifa. But as you can see, a subatomic particle can express only a tiny bit of this potential that is there. An atom can express some more. A molecule can express some more. Biological life can express some more. And finally we get to Adam. And Adam is able to express sufficient of the attributes that had been breathed into light in its absolute state, that Adam can now be the Khalifa of Allah. And the way we put it, the way it has been put to us, is that Allah had offered to the sun and the moon and the mountains and the rivers or the oceans or something, and scholars have said essentially Allah had offered to everything the potential to be His Khalifa, but everything said no, or nobody could say yes until Adam. Nobody said yes until Adam. Now, I think it is not the case that Allah had been specifically like going to each of these levels and saying, would you like to be my Khalifa? And I think it is probably not the case that even Adam was asked to be his Khalifa, because before Adam was created, Allah had said that He was going to create His Khalifa on earth. So I think the choice to be Khalifa is made not by the individual themselves, but by the level of complexity of the organization of the material form that allows the Khalifa, the expression of the Khalifa level. And I don't know whether everyone knows what the terms mean. E stands for energy, and energy is actually what I am referring to as light. M stands for mass, C stands for the speed of light, and squared is speed of light squared. Now, we have taken this as the equivalency of energy and matter. But remember, I was talking about interpretation based on a materialist view of science. I want to say that this is perhaps talking about something else, and that this is actually a formula of the relationship between this E here actually equals equals light in its absolute state. And the mc squared equals light in its relative state. So we actually have, from Einstein, an equation that is talking about the equivalency of Allah's created light to the matter that Allah creates from His created light. And if that is so, this greatly increases the importance of this equation, to actually have a physical equation that relates the non-material existence to the material existence. It had never been looked at that way because people didn't realize that the E is actually outside of space and time. I mean, I think I've proved sufficiently that it is. I don't feel I need to keep proving that it is. But so now, we now know that this E is actually light outside of space and time. And this is how it is equivalent to light inside space and time. I think this is a thing of really huge significance. I don't know whether it is felt to be of huge significance, but if this is true, this is really massively huge significance. Then we want to go a little more into what is really the true nature of existence, because I say now let's start talking about what we see. What is it I am holding in my hand? Okay? So we say this is a whiteboard marker, right? From our perspective, this is a whiteboard marker. But is it really a whiteboard marker? Or is it a grouping of subatomic particles put together in such a way that our sensory apparatus perceive it as a whiteboard marker, which is what it actually is. So none of the things we see around us are the things we see, right? We see the things around us on the basis of the way Allah has given us a perceptual mechanism to perceive His material existence, or the mc squared part. Allah seems to want us to come into the material world. Actually, where soul comes from, I'm not entirely sure. And I think I'm not sure enough to make a hypothesis on where soul comes from. Other than, I would assume, as with everything else, soul is created by Allah. Individual souls are created by Allah. The actual mechanism, I'm not really sure about. Although, it would appear